Hi everyone, and welcome to this week's Wallsend History Story. This week is another in the series of Wallsend High Street shops from the past. As said with the previous videos, this is what used to be there and what's there now. And a lot of the older shops don't really have any pictures, so I will only be able to use adverts for them. However, I am hoping to find a few old pictures that I can use for every video. Although I do know for certain that there's no photos of some of the shops because they either don't exist or because of copyright. And I just want to add that this is just a small section of the shops. There's still a lot more, and some more I will hopefully cover in the next video. Now, there might not be a lot of history about these shops to tell, so a lot will simply be a description and some of my memories of the ones I can remember, although I'm not old enough to remember some of them, and some of the shops come with even less information. But the aim of these videos is really just to either jog a few memories about the shops you may have forgotten, or to tell you about some you may have never heard of. And this week's video includes not just some of the fairly well-known shops, but also a few of the lesser known ones. I hope you'll enjoy it and find it interesting. I am actually going to start with one of the lesser known shops, and the advert you can see on screen at the moment dates back to around 1910. And this shop was G.W. Harrison. And they actually had a few different locations on the high street over the years, and one of these was at 118 High Street West, and I've used that location for the up-to-date photo as it's the only one I can truly be sure of. Now, Harrison's, as you can see from the advert, was a jeweller, but it wasn't just a jeweller selling watches among other things, but they also sold musical instruments, and the 118 High Street West shop was the one for the musical instruments. And on top of this, they also had a cycle shop, so there was nothing like getting a really good share of the market. In the same location today is something called the Mash Burger shop. Obviously, it's a takeaway of some kind, but I have never been in this shop, so that's pretty much all I can tell you about it. And prior to this, the shop had been at least 2 different Chinese takeaway shops. The next shop this week is one I know for sure that a lot of you will remember, and that's the Army and Navy store. Now, I know that sadly this is another photo where it's not very easy to see the shop, but it's still a shop, unfortunately, that has no proper photos of it. Well, as yet, you never know, something may turn up one day, so this for the moment is the best I can actually do. Now, this is one shop that I absolutely loved. The windows were jam-packed with all manner of things, rucksacks, things for camping, etc. And I could spend a fair bit of time just looking at everything. I also believe it was where I got my first Swiss Army knife from. I have absolutely no idea why I wanted or needed one. It's not like I planned to go wandering off into the woods on some kind of survival trip. But I had it for years before it finally fell apart. And I also don't know if this is the shop where my love of camouflage clothes came from. But I have to admit that I do still love anything camouflage. But I never had the slightest desire to join the army. Now, I'm sure that many of you will remember looking in the windows of the Army and Navy store. And I'd really love to hear your memories of the shop in the comments below. In the same location today, you will find the Blue Line taxi office. Of course, this looks completely different today as the whole thing has been altered and extended a little further down the side street, and it barely resembles the old Army and Navy store now. The next shop I am going to cover is another one that goes back to the early 1900s. And the advert you can see on screen also dates back to 1910, as it comes from the same booklet that the advert for Harrison's came from. And this shop is a Brook. Now, Mr. Brook, I'm assuming it was Mr. Brook, had 2 shops on the high street. One was in the same location where Siddle's would later be, and the other was at 8 High Street East. Now, as you can see from the advert from 1910, they seemed at the time to specialise in items for churches. But obviously they did cover a lot of other stationery items too. And at one point they even created their own little book of Wallsend postcards. And the book really does seem to be quite a promotion of their own shops. And the photo that you can see on screen at the moment is the front cover of their little book. And this next picture of the high street near Border Road has a strange kind of appearance to it, as if the other shops have been made to be a little more faint, or the blurred out names, while the name of their shop, Brook, really stands out. Now the book also included another view of the high street where you could clearly see their second shop too, so you definitely couldn't forget who had created and published the book of postcards, or forget where their shops were on the high street. In this photo, you can see where the shop used to be on High Street East, and Brook was the last shop on the left-hand side of the picture, before what would later become Woolworths and is now Heron's Foods. And at the time that this picture was taken, it is a postcard which would have been hand-coloured, so there would have probably been a black and white one exactly the same. So what you can see where Woolworths and now Heron's is actually a building that was demolished, and probably not long after this postcard was created. Now the postcard is actually a really good picture, as it shows the high street before the Zion Church was demolished, and you can just see that on the right hand side of the picture where the low wall is with the gap in the middle, which would obviously have been the entrance to the church. Obviously the church was later replaced by the central buildings, and the Allen Memorial Church on Park Road was built to replace the Zion Chapel or Church. Not sure which one it was called. And of course the central buildings was probably more commonly known as Boots Corner. Now the picture also shows a time before the bank was built on the other corner of the high street opposite the church and Station Road. And going back to the left hand side of the picture, you can just see the roof of the Wallsend Cafe, and that's opposite the tram in the photo, if you aren't totally sure where I mean. Anyway, I am wandering a little off subject, so back to Mr. Brook's shop. In the same location today, you will find So-and-So, which does clothes alterations among other things. I believe they also offer a dry cleaning service. Now, it's not a shop I've actually been in, as I've not really needed anything altered for a few years now. I just tend to buy something bigger these days. Sadly, never smaller though, always seems to be something bigger. Also in the same location in the past were shops called Game City, which was there in around 2008, and KC Mode, which I believe sold things like hats and scarves and bags. And of course long before that it was Bell's shop, which sold clothing items from those wonderful little drawers like you used to see on TV in the Are You Being Served sitcom. The next shop I am going to talk about is one I really don't remember, although it's not as old as some that I have included in this week's video, and it was called a Double Discount, and it used to be at 3 High Street East, and this advert dates to around 1976, which is why I'm saying that it's not as old as some of the others that I've already spoken about. Now, based on the information on the advert, the only thing they sold were cigarettes. And it seems that they were offering cigarettes at discount prices. The advert doesn't actually give you any full pack prices, but it does tell you how much cheaper they were selling them for, with some on offer for 6p less per pack than other shops. Now I wonder how long this shop was there for, and can anyone listening to this actually remember it? In the same location today, you will find the Your Move estate agents, and before this, it used to be Reed's Rains. As I often say, I've never been in either of these shops, and there's not a lot really to say about them, but as they were all estate agents, I think most of us will know what they would be like inside. Now the last shop I'm going to mention this week is McDonalds, which I actually only really know about because it appears in the opening scenes of the Lightly Lads film from 1976. Now McDonald's shop, I am led to believe, was mainly a fabric shop, but they also sold clothing, and from this advert it seems it was mainly children's clothing and maternity wear. Later, in the same location, you would have found Lewin's. Now, I did say in my last High Street Shops video that I did hope to cover this shop soon. Now, sadly, there's not much available photo-wise, so unfortunately, it is another case of squinting to spot it on this photo. Lewin's was another one of those shops that sold just about everything at great low prices. Now, I remember going in there often with my nana, and it seemed to take forever to get round the shop, as there was always so many things to look at. And in later years, they also offered a video rental service, which I believe was upstairs. And I'm almost certain that you got to that from a staircase at the back of the shop. But that could be my memory playing tricks on me. So if anyone knows for sure, do please let me know in the comments below. These days, in the same location, you will find the Subway sandwich shop. And Subway has been there since at least 2008. And I've only been in here once many years ago. But it must be quite popular to still be open today. Just not popular with me. I prefer KFC. Another little story that I wanted to add here though, just to finish this video off, which dates back to the early 1900s, was something that I found when I was looking for the address for one of the other shops that I've covered in this week's video. And it was a little advert for what can probably only be described as a moneylender, who was advertising their business in the local papers, and their address was 167 High Street West, so it's kind of close to the Duke of York area. Now, they were offering cash on reasonable terms and with repayments to suit your own convenience. And this wasn't the only advert I found for the same kind of service, but as this one was in Wallsend, it did kind of catch my eye. But I wonder how many people got themselves into debt, lending money just to pay their weekly bills, while the moneylender got rich. Anyway, I do hope that you have enjoyed this latest little installment of Wallsend High Street shops, and I hope that it has brought back some good memories of some of the shops mentioned, and I do hope that you have found it interesting. And I do thank you all very much for watching, and I hope to see you all again very soon.